we've got tickets, like happened yesterday to the next Eurovision. So
Where
I
is
guess
that?
I'm going to Europe. It's in Sweden, so in Malmö.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You been?
I haven't been there. I've been to Sweden. When did I? Again, Hamish and Andy. It's just like all my travel just seems to
Yeah.
come back to that. But yeah, so I'm going back to Europe, I think in May, as of yesterday.
Dude, that would have been a fucking trip traveling with those two in particular. Just that lightheartedness and you know, keeping the spirits up and seeing some pretty wild things.
It was
along the way.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that I saw, I guess it would have been in Peru.
Yeah.
That ayahuasca experience.
Yeah.
That was legit. Yeah.
It was legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was legit in that neither of them knew who was going to get it as well. Did we know? We knew when it was happening, so we knew which tea it was in because it was like choose the tea. It was like, yeah, but it was legit. And what followed that evening was just funny. Like it was pretty funny.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even know how to manage that situation until it arises.
I think about it now, dude. Like that, we just wouldn't get away with stuff that we did on that show now. Like, there's just no way that insurance would sign off on.
How did you like? Okay, how would you even get that sign off, or would it just be like, we're not even gonna? They can't know about this.
No, we always had to get stuff risk assessed, but the boys would make the decision. It was their company, so at the end of the day, there were a couple, I'm pretty sure, that weren't insured, and they just went, "That's fine, we can do it." Yeah, like there was a bridge jump in Mostar, in Bosnia, that was way too high for beginners to do. Like it's a Red Bull kind of jump off this bridge into the water. Gorgeous place, and we should not have done that. But the boys were like, "Absolutely, we're going to do
sports.
that." They are good sports, but I don't know. Again, like I don't know. I look back on some of the stuff that we did, and I'm like, yeah, we wouldn't do that again.
No, man, it was good that they were able, like you were saying, with that it wouldn't be something that you could do now, and they were the sort of the duo that set a standard of sensible comedy, pushing boundaries, and they were at the right age at the right time, and it was just a combination that worked. And now what are they? They're probably not even on radio anymore. They're just doing the podcast.
They're doing their podcast. I mean, they've just managed to carve out their careers so well. Like, they were that at the time, but then, you know, Andy's got his own show he's hosting on Channel 9. Haim does Lego, and so they've kind of branched out. The company behind Hamish and Andy, like they're still doing stuff as well. Like Ryan Shelton was part of them too, who's awesome, and he does a podcast called The Imperfects. Which is so
with
good.
Hugh Van Salenberg.
So yeah, they're all doing cool things. The way that they've been able to carve out their careers is pretty special, but it makes sense. Like what you see with them is just who they are.
Yeah,
you know,
that's pretty key when you're talking about personalities on TV or just in media. Just being genuine,
100%.
Yeah, and connecting people through that.
Yeah.
And that's are you in touch with them at all?
Yeah, I mean, not as much anymore when you're not working with them. Like I speak to Andy maybe a couple of times a year. It's generally like work related.
Yeah.
But like I consider themselves friends, but like I consider myself friends with them, but you know, it's just like everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I spent, 4 or 5 years. I look at that time when I can look at my career now, or if I ever take the time to do it, and I look at those years and I'm like, that was probably the most fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just that level of experience, man. Like you don't really get that. I mean, it's pretty unique to television, getting to media, getting to travel like that, and to push boundaries with the sort of shit that you'll be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. Like some of the things that we were doing. Not so much the things that we were doing, but the time frames that we would do it. Like I think the first trip that I did, which was in Europe, it was like 47 days because you do a recce first. I was by myself doing a recce with fixers in these countries, and then I'd fly back to the beginning of that recce, which is where I would meet Hamish and Andy and the team, and then you do it again. So like over 47 days, I think I did like 43 flights.
So you would have people on the ground already that you correspond with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in each country, you would have a person that is from there and that you're kind of relying on to be on your side and to help. Because some of them were like television production companies or they worked within the industry. And then others were just like, oh, we know this person who's great and they can help you navigate Russia, for instance.
Yeah.
Like Russia was one of those places where you're just going and you don't really know what you're going to get. And
Yeah.
you're just putting a lot of trust in this person that you've been speaking to, but you don't really know. But yeah, there's always one person, and then we flew the team over.
Yeah. After you've done all the groundwork, you've set it all up.
Yeah.
So as a producer, can you take me through how the process from start to finish, right? So
Yeah.
with that, you would work closely with them to develop the concept, or was the concept already there?
It was already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me on that show, I basically was brought in to be the kind of the field producer, if you will. And with like a duo like Hamish and Andy or comedians like them, you're not doing much. Basically, you're just putting building blocks in place
Yeah.
for them to just thrive. And like sometimes there'd be stories where I'm like, there's not much here. And then you just see them do what they do and you're like, you know, it becomes an extraordinary.
Gold.
Yeah. There was one in Sweden, which we did, which was rabbit jumping. And I remember on the day, I was like, it just was not anything that I thought that it was going to be. We thought that it'd be like this packed kind of place. There was like 12 people there. And so we're trying to get people. It felt like a dud on the day. And it was the first story that actually went to air because it was so funny because the boys were able to like just make it hilarious.
Yeah.
So they had that ability. So yeah, I would, and others, like the team kind of grew from Europe to Gap Year Asia and then South America. But we would just stare at a map and we'd be like, right, how do we make this work over a period of time? Where do we want to go? Can we make something funny in those places? Like you don't get those opportunities much.
No, and like you don't even really with them. You don't even need to force that humor. You don't have to look too hard for it.
No.
You know, they'll be able to find something entertaining in any kind of situation.
And as a producer, you're just like, that's the best because you know that if the building blocks aren't what you thought they were going to be, that Hamish and Andy were just going to make it hilarious anyway.
Yeah.
You wanted them to be there as much as you could, though, to make their jobs easy, but you knew that there was like a break glass where they would just find funny and not very much. And so, yeah, we would just travel around. And as part of that, you were responsible for all of the luggage. Like we traveled with 30 odd bags and working with the fixers, you would just try and navigate the pathways to each of these stories whilst trying to forward plan, you know, what your next story would be in the next country with people that aren't actors. So they're just everyday folks that you are liaising with. So, you know, there's a bit of like, it's different to working with actors. And some people will just be like, not show up, or they'll be like, oh, I can't do that day. I'm like, okay, well, our whole trip is based on that day. So what can we do? Like, we can't change our plans. I know that you might think we can, but we just can't. Like, we're literally flying into Venice for the day. So we need you to be there.
There's 30 of us showing up, man.
Yeah, well, though, there's only like, on that, man, the team was tiny. So I think we were like 8 to 10, like, people just traveling for that. It was a really like run and gun type crew, which you had to be because we were just doing things so quickly.